when I met some ranchers a couple months ago that are concerned about kind of extreme energy projects in the Sandhills that threaten the water. One of them came up to me, it was the first time that he had met me, and said, "Jane Kleeb, I thought you'd have horns and a tail." So, I said I was sorry to disappoint him, nope, I'm just a mom in a minivan, taking our state by storm. It's an honor to be here with you guys today. It's an honor to listen to not only Mika C., my brother, who we spend a lot of time together, but now our sister from Standing Rock, who is also Chief Orville Looking Horse's niece. If you don't know who Chief Orville Looking Horse is, he is a 19th generation white buffalo calf pipe keeper. He brings a lot of grounding and spirituality and lessons to the movement. He is on the ground up in Standing Rock, as you can imagine, with the militarized police force that is literally terrifying folks and terrorizing folks. He brought a lot of peace yesterday. I was there to witness his prayer. It was this image of Orville walking up to the police to essentially try to negotiate some peace in between what was happening with the militarized police force and the water protectors. And the complete disrespect for him was on full display. And they did not listen to the words that he was trying to say. On that same day in the morning, he had sent a letter to President Obama, and we made sure that the White House had it. And I just wanted to read kind of one sentence from it, and we'll make sure to post this on the Bold, Iowa page because it's now been published in a couple papers. He told the president essentially that we're looking to you to actually honor the words, the commitments that you've made to our faces as Native people, including up at Standing Rock, where the president has been and promised that he would protect not only their treaty and sovereign rights, but their water. Orville said, "We are part of creation. Thus, if we break the laws of creation, we destroy ourselves. That we speak on behalf of all creation today to communicate an urgent message that man has gone too far, placing us in the state of survival. Not heeding warnings from nature and the people of the earth keeps us on the path of self-destruction. These self-destructive activities and development continues to cause deterioration in the destruction of sacred places and sacred water that are vital for life. We respect and honor our spiritual relationship with the lifeblood of Mother Earth. One does not sell or contaminate their mother's blood. These capitalistic actions must stop, and we must recover our sacred relationship with the spirit of water." And he continues to remind the president of his words and the words that he expects the president to live up to. And in Nebraska, when we were fighting Keystone XL, Mika C. came to one of the spirit camps that we had held on the Ponca Trail of Tears. The pipeline, all these pipelines cross very sacred lands, right? Standing Rock's, the Dakota Access Pipeline, is not the first time that Native American sacred places have been disrupted. It's not the first time that farmers and ranchers have been fighting eminent domain for private gain. We were watching that potentially happen with Keystone. So we did many actions on that pipeline fight. We carved pumpkins, we surrounded the governor's mansion with flashlights. I mean, we did all sorts of things. We built a barn directly in the path of Keystone XL with solar panels. I mean, we tried to do anything and everything to stop that pipeline. But one of the most important things we did is join hands with our Native brothers and sisters and form the Cowboy and Indian Alliance. And we prayed often together, and we did actions often together. We shared meals often together. One of those moments was on the Ponca Trail of Tears on Art and Helen Tandrup's farm, where we held a really cool concert, as a little side note, with Willie Nelson and Neil Young. But Mika C. received a message that we should be planting the Ponca sacred corn inside the pipeline route where the Keystone XL would have crossed the Ponca Trail of Tears. And we did that. And when Mika C. describes this, he talks about how the corn has to stand for us when we're not there, and that the roots of the corn go so deep, and that is very similar to each one of us in here. And every time we harvest that corn, we then give those seeds to other people who are fighting pipelines, whether it's in Ecuador, whether it's in Virginia, whether it's in West Virginia, whether it's in California, whether it's in New York. There's pipelines threatening many of our communities. But Mikasi's mom had gone down to Ecuador and she brought some of these seeds. And it was down there where she called it the seeds of resistance, and that each one of us is a seed of resistance. And Linda and Mahmoud are going to bring around some of the seeds of resistance. And I encourage you, as I kind of just tell like one more story, so I'm not taking up all the time, that, take a couple of these seeds, put them in your pocket, put them on your desk, leave them in your car. Make sure that you carry these seeds with you. Because when we fight these pipelines, when we fight these destructive fossil fuel corporations, it sometimes gets very difficult. It sometimes gets lonely. You sometimes think that you're the only one who is fighting back. And it's really important to remember that each one of us is a seed of resistance. And that unless we come together to form a really strong, united, solid fight against these corporations and these pipelines, that they will continue to tear us down. One of the best lessons that we did on Keystone was make sure that the landowners were in legal groups, so they knew that they weren't alone. Because one of the things that these pipeline companies and the fracking companies do is essentially tell you your concerns about your water, your concerns about your land, that's all isolated. You're by yourself. Everybody else has signed. They tell landowners all these ridiculous stories. They promise that it's going to have the best technology. And the reality is they're lying to folks, because they know that if you feel isolated, if you feel alone, you will sign on the dotted line because you're terrified that there's nobody else standing there with you. And that's why these seeds are so important, because everywhere we go, whether it's farmers or ranchers, landowners, Native Americans, traditional environmentalists, we are all standing for the same thing. We're standing up to protect our water, to protect our land, and to push back on climate change. There is no question, and this will be something on November 9th when Secretary Clinton becomes President of the United States. This will be something that we have to be in the streets saying. Because unfortunately, Secretary Clinton does have kind of old school people around her when it comes to energy policies. They are still living in 1990s and early 2000s science when it comes to climate change and pipelines and when it comes to climate change and fracking. We often hear when people don't understand why we're fighting a pipeline, how that's connected to climate change. We have to remind people and teach people that when you frack and when you pull up the oil, that has to go somewhere. So if the fracked gas and the fracked oil and the tar sands don't have pipelines to go in, that means we can help stop climate change. It means we can protect our water, and it means we can protect our land. And something that BOLD is 100% committed to do is ending eminent domain for private gain. There are so many organizations out there that are doing amazing work, and BOLD's purpose, I think, on this planet is to make sure that these corporations no longer have that right. They were given that right in the 50s. They then were given even more rights in 2006, 2007, when the big Kelo Supreme Court case came down. And these Republican senators and Republican representatives in our states lied to the American people, telling us that they were protecting our property rights by strengthening state eminent domain laws, when in fact, what they did was open up the floodgates to pipelines. Many of our state laws back then essentially got changed when before it was very difficult for pipeline companies to use eminent domain. Starting around 2006, it started to get inserted into language. And we are going to make sure, state by state, and at the federal level, we take that power away from the oil companies and put it back in the hands of the American people. So I want to close with actually having everybody stand up. And Bobby Jean, who is a young woman who led a run from the Standing Rock Reservation to DC. She also led it from Standing Rock and even came through Iowa here. They have a chant that they say all the time when they're coming into communities. And they said it a lot up at Standing Rock this past weekend when I was up there. And so we're going to go ahead and give it a try. So when I say the phrase, you guys say it right back to me, okay? We stand.
We stand.
For our brothers.
For our brothers.
We stand.
We stand.
For our sisters.
For our sisters.
We stand.
We stand.
For our water.
For our water.
We stand.
We stand.
For life.
For life.
We stand.
We stand.
We stand.
We stand.
We stand.
We stand.
Damn right we do. Thanks, guys.